Before I go, let me tell you something that most people don't expect to hear from a man of my age. I am not thinking about death as much as people assume. What occupies my mind now is the waste. The small, invisible ways people give their lives away without realizing it. I am in my late 80s. I wake up slower. I walk slower. I speak slower. But my thinking has never been clear. Time does that. It removes noise. It strips away the lies you told yourself just to survive the day. What remains is not regret exactly, it's awareness. And awareness can be uncomfortable. I remember a morning not long ago when I stood in my kitchen holding a cup of coffee. I was staring at nothing in particular. The house was quiet, not in a sad way, but in a settled way, like a place that had already finished telling its stories. And I realized something that startled me. Most people die without ever realizing what actually mattered in their lives, not because they were foolish, but because they were busy when I was younger. I believed life would eventually slow down on its own. I thought clarity came automatically with age. It doesn't. You see, clarity comes only if you are willing to look honestly at yourself, and most people avoid that until there's very little time left. I spent decades chasing stability, thinking once I reached it, I would finally feel at ease. But stability is a moving target. It keeps shifting just far enough to keep you running. Promotions, possessions, plans, they all promise rest later. Later rarely comes. What no one tells you is that life doesn't reward effort with peace. It rewards understanding with peace. There were years when my calendar was full and my mind was empty. I was productive, respected, useful, and completely disconnected from myself. I mistook usefulness for purpose. Many people do. It's an easy mistake to make because society applauds it. Age removes applause. That's when you find out who you really are. Loss is unavoidable in a long life. People think they are prepared for it. They are not. You don't get used to people disappearing. You adjust, yes. But adjustment is not acceptance. It is learning how to carry absence without letting it harden you. I have buried friends I thought I would grow old with. I have watched rooms empty permanently. At some point, you stop asking, why them? And start asking, what am I still here to understand? Grief taught me restraint. It taught me that reacting emotionally does not always equal caring deeply. Silence, when chosen consciously, can be respectful rather than cold. There were arguments I won that I wish I had lost. There were moments I defended my pride when I should have defended the relationship. These are not dramatic regrets, just quiet corrections that come too late to apply retroactively. If you are younger, listen carefully to this. Being right has a short lifespan. Being kind lasts longer than you think. Another truth that comes with age is this. No one is watching you as closely as you believe. Much of the pressure you feel is imagined. You waste years performing for an audience that isn't paying attention. I see younger people exhausted by comparison. They measure themselves against strangers. They borrow standards that don't belong to them. They mistake visibility for value. I did too. It took me years to realize that most of what matters happens privately. Character is built when no one is counting. One of the most difficult transitions of old age is becoming irrelevant in practical terms. Your advice is no longer requested. Your experience is summarized instead of explored. At first, this feels insulting. Later, it feels liberating. You stop needing to prove anything. There is freedom in no longer being necessary. It allows you to observe instead of intervene, to witness instead of control. Control, I learned, was the source of much of my stress. You cannot manage life into meaning. You can only pay attention into it. Solitude becomes unavoidable eventually. The mistake people make is resisting it instead of learning from it. If you have not made peace with yourself by old age, solitude will feel like punishment. If you have, it becomes refuge. I learned things about myself in silence that noise had hidden for decades. I learned what emotions I avoided, what habits were compensations, what beliefs were inherited rather than chosen. That kind of honesty is uncomfortable, but it is stabilizing. I no longer chase excitement. I value steadiness. I value mornings that are predictable. I value conversations that don't require performance. I value being able to sit without needing distraction. I thought stopping meant falling behind. Now I understand that stillness is not absence. It is presence without interference. When you stop rushing, you notice how much of your life you were trying to escape. I used to think wisdom meant having answers. It doesn't. Wisdom is knowing which questions no longer deserve your energy. Many problems dissolve when you stop feeding them attention. Anger, especially, loses its appeal with age. Not because injustice disappears, but because anger demands a kind of energy you eventually learn to conserve. You realize that peace is not weakness, it is efficiency. I have learned to let people misunderstand me. This was very hard when I was younger. I wanted to correct every false assumption. Now I understand that clarity does not require agreement. You do not need to be fully understood to live truthfully. I also learned that love is quieter than people expect. It is not constant intensity or grand expression. It is consistency. It is showing up without needing to be seen. It is choosing patience when irritation would be easier. The people who stayed in my life the longest were not the most exciting ones. They were the most reliable. Reliability is not boring. It is rare. Before I go, I want to correct one final illusion. Life does not owe you fulfillment. Fulfillment is not guaranteed by effort, morality, or intelligence. It is a byproduct of alignment when your actions stop contradicting your values. Most people are tired because they live divided lives. They say one thing and do another. They want simplicity but choose complexity. They want peace but feed conflict. Over time, that division becomes exhaustion. If you want something practical from an old man, here it is. Speak sooner. Forgive faster. Choose simplicity deliberately. Stop postponing what you already know is important. Do not wait for permission to live differently. No one is coming to give it to you. No one reaches the end wishing they had been more impressive. They wish they had been more present. I don't know how much time I have left. That question no longer troubles me. What matters is whether the time that remains is honest, whether it is gentle, whether it is lived without unnecessary resistance. Before I go, I want my days to be light, not because nothing is heavy, but because I am no longer carrying what isn't mine. That is what age gives you if you let it. Not answers, but relief.